Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahama Kajur, but first are the headlines. Retired High Court Judge Musenene dies at Mbale Hospital. The fighting in Sudan has no sense, should stop immediately, says President Yoweri Museveni. Fighting continues in Sudan as death toll climbs. In a sports news today, Kampala Capital City Authority Manager Molly Kwaso resigns. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Retired High Court Judge Wilson Masalu Musenene is dead, the judiciary announced Sunday. Musenene died in Mbale Sunday evening. Funeral arrangements to be announced later, according to a statement by the judiciary reads in part. We have more on this report. Away from that, President Yoweri Museveni has condemned the nasty security situation in Sudan, where fighting has raged between the government army and paramilitaries. We have more on this report.
In a statement on Sunday, the president described the fighting as a misuse of force and undermines the progress made in the past months of dialogue. Fighting broke out late last week between the Sudan Army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces as a climax of deepening tensions between military leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his number 2, paramilitary commander Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, over the planned integration of the paramilitaries into the regular army. At least 56 people have been reported to have been killed and many other injured during the fighting, whereas several other installations in the capital, Khartoum, have been destroyed. In his statement, President Museveni described the fighting as one without any sense. According to Museveni, fighting in a populated Khartoum will see many people die, yet this could have been avoided. The Ugandan president warned the warring factions in Sudan that the country does not belong to either of them, but rather the people.
We take a quick break. She'll come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Moving on, in international news, fighting continues to rage for the second consecutive day on Sunday in Khartoum, where violent clashes opposed the camps of two generals at the helm of Sudan since their purge in 2021, leaving 56 civilians dead and 600 injured. We have more on this report.
The divisions between General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the army, and General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemet, head of the Rapid Support Forces, thousands of ex-militiamen of the Darfur War, who have become official auxiliaries of the regular troops, degenerated into violence on Saturday morning in the streets of this country of 45 million inhabitants, among the poorest in the world, torn by war for decades. The violence continued on Sunday morning. The deserted streets of Khartoum were filled with the smell of gunpowder after explosions and gunfire rang out throughout the night. The military had warned the civilians to stay home in the evening on Facebook, as the Air Force was to conduct operations to finish with the rebel militias of the Rapid Support. In the morning, heavy gun battles opposed military and paramilitary in the northern suburbs of the capital, as well as in the south of Khartoum, according to witnesses. According to pro-democracy doctors, 56 civilians were killed, more than half of them in Khartoum and its suburbs, while dozens of military and paramilitary personnel died, although no precise figures are available.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, the chairman of African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat, announced on Sunday, the second day of violent clashes in the country, that he will travel immediately to Sudan to engage parties towards a ceasefire. We have more on this report.
Expressing its deep concern about the situation, the African Union called on the forces of the two generals in charge of Sudan to protect civilians in a statement issued after an emergency meeting of the organization's Peace and Security Council on Sunday afternoon. The organ in charge of conflicts and security issues Within the AU requested the chairperson of the AU Commission to continue to use his good offices to engage with the parties to the conflict in order to facilitate dialogue and peaceful resolution of the conflict in Sudan, and welcomes his commitment to travel immediately to Sudan to engage the parties towards a ceasefire. The AU also urged the warring parties to quickly adopt a peaceful resolution and an inclusive dialogue to solve their differences and firmly reject any external interference that could complicate the situation in Sudan. Fighting continued on Sunday for the second consecutive day between the Sudanese army and powerful paramilitary force against the backdrop of a power struggle between the two generals in charge of Sudan since 2021 coup, killing at least 56 civilians in 24 hours and 3 UN aid workers.
Moving on, Rwanda's President Paul Kagame met on Saturday with his Benin counterpart Patrice Talon, promising military support to help the country contain spillover from jihadist conflict across the northern border with Burkina Faso.
West Africa coastal nations Benin, Togo, Ghana and Ivory Coast are preparing for a potential spillover as Burkina Faso struggles to contain an Islamist militant insurgency gaining ground just across their northern borders. Benin last year said it was in talks over military and logistical cooperation with Rwanda, whose troops Kagame has already dispatched to help Mozambique and Central African Republic combat unrest. While at a press conference with Talon in Cotonou, President Kagame said that they are ready to work with Benin to prevent anything that may happen around its borders. Benin, Togo and Ivory Coast have already suffered attacks in border areas blamed on jihadists, while Ghana recently reinforced military presence along its whole northern frontier. Talon and Kagame had a one-on-one meeting to discuss relations between the two countries and the search for strategic partnership in several areas, including security, Benin's foreign ministry said in a statement.
The Food and Agriculture Organization, in a rare report on the glaring inequalities of the sector, said that women, who are essential to feed the world, still occupy a marginal place in food production because they own less land and less money and are more vulnerable to crisis. We have more on this report.
According to the report, from the fields to the production lines, women have to deal with working conditions that are often more difficult than those of men, insofar as they are confined to occasional or part-time, informal low-skilled jobs and therefore more precarious. Even if their access to technology or credit has improved since 2010, the date of the last report of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on the subject, the reduction of most gender disparities has stalled and some gaps have widened with the COVID-19 pandemic. By addressing these inequalities and empowering women, the FAO Director General said in the report that they will take a big step towards the goals of eradicating poverty and hunger. According to the study, women make up more than half of the agriculture workforce in many sub-Saharan African countries and just under half in Southeast Asia. During the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, 22% of women lost their jobs in the agri-food industries compared to only 2% of men, and women's food insecurity worsened faster than men's.
Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with business, health and sports. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the Brighton. In a business news today, South Africa has managed to attract new investment commitments from investors worth about $84 billion over the next 5 years. President Cyril Ramaphosa met with the investors as part of the 5th South Africa Investment Conference.
According to the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Breweries, Richard Rivet Kanak, their investment pledge is expected to create 40,000 jobs in the country. He added that they are committing 5.8 billion rands and will invest the full amount by the end of this year as primarily for the expansion of their brewery in Kwebaha. While President Ramaphosa has put forward his multi-billion-dollar US investment target, South Africans on the street believe that he needs to focus on eradicating electricity blackouts in order to boost investor confidence. Kebongema, a South African citizen, insists that President Ramaphosa's energy investment plan will turn around the country. The South Africa investment was first introduced by President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2018 to help attract more investors to the country.
In our health news today, a new malaria vaccine developed by Oxford University has been given the green light by Ghanaian authorities to use in that country. A first of the much hyped vaccine, according to a statement released on Thursday.
The R21 Matrix M vaccine, developed by Oxford University scientists and manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, has been approved for use in children aged 5 to 36 months, the age group most at risk of death from malaria, according to the university statement. It said that it is hoped that this crucial first step will enable the vaccine to help Ghanaian and African children effectively fight malaria. Malaria, a parasitic disease transmitted by mosquitoes, killed 627,000 people, mostly African children, in 2020 alone. In September 2022, Oxford researchers had already expressed hope for the vaccine. The approval in Ghana marks the culmination of 30 years of malaria vaccine research at Oxford, with the design and availability of a highly effective vaccine that can be delivered on an adequate scale to the countries that need it most, according to Oxford vaccine specialist Adrian Hill, head of the R21 Matrix M program.
In a sports news today, KCCA FC manager Molivia Kwaso Ochama has resigned from his job. The coach confirmed quitting the role after the team's elimination from the Stanbic Uganda Cup by Salt Bright Stars on Sunday. A second-half goal by Nordin Bunjo made KCCA FC go dumped out of the cup at the quarter-final stage.
Immediately after the game, KCCFC manager Molebie Kwaso Ochama revealed to the media that he has taken a decision to leave his role at the club. He said that they expected to win after getting some chances but couldn't score and unfortunately losing the game. Biekwaso said that he took the decision as a coach after seeing a lot of player power in the team, adding that when they train, they give players roles, and when they don't take the responsibility and respect roles, it brings disorganization in the team. He stated that he could not go on with the club and wished them the best success in the future. The Uganda Cup exit was the icing on the cake of the terrible run the team has had in recent games. 3 successive draws in the league with Maroons, UPDF and Blacks Power saw KCCFC lose ground in the title race. Biekwaso has been under immense pressure ever since he took over from Mike Mutebi 2 years ago, first on interim basis before signing a 3-year deal in June 2021. At the time of his departure, KCCA sits second with 36 points, 4 behind leaders SC Villa, who have played 2 more games.
Well, thank you so much, reporter, and thank you for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa,